Today we're going to be talking about some tough learnings from Code Assist and very generally the topic of how not to fail building an AI product. As a brief overview, first we're going to talk about Code Assist itself, then we're going to do a little bit on AI startups, and then we're going to talk about building and selling. Just want to confirm that everybody can hear me, see me, all good? Yeah, I think it's good to go. Perfect. Alrighty. So just a little bit about me. I learned to program when I was 11, basically haven't slept since. I started working as a software engineer when I was 14, volunteering for a gaming network. I did my first startup at 15. As it turns out, it's remarkably hard to do a startup when you're in high school because you've got a full course load of homework every night. But in terms of more recent stuff, I've previously worked on an inference product that handles more than 1 billion tokens a day. Jensen, I think everybody knows this, but might as well go over it again. Jensen was founded in London in 2020, more than $50 million raised with the last round by A16Z, and we've got about 40 people. So next, let's talk about Code Assist. Everyone probably is fairly familiar with it, but in case you're not, this is what it looks like. It is a LeetCode challenge tool where you can use an AI that you train yourself to assist you in solving the challenge in front of you. On the left, we've got the actual problem. On the right, we've got some of the code that you can edit. And then down at the bottom, we've got the test panel. Code Assist had a few goals. You can see them on screen here, but these were the things that we tried our absolute best to keep in mind when we were building Code Assist. Overall, it's built off of an open source LeetCode dataset, and we developed a custom concept called an action selection model. This is the tool that instructs the LLM on what to do. It's based on Quinn 2.5, and as you can probably guess, we focused on private and entirely local inference and training. This is roughly what the architecture looks like. The web UI is the main thing that you interact with. It talks to the state service, which maintains the state of the problem that you're editing. That tracks, history, it tracks rewards for the AI, etc. That talks to Ollama, where the actual Quinn model is running. The persistent disk stores the history of the problem, some of the model stuff, etc. And then the solution tester just lives on its own, testing all the code that you've got. So next, let's talk about AI startups. The most important thing to note when you're doing a startup of any kind is you live and you die by your MVP. It is the only thing that realistically matters until you've got a solid set of customers. When you're starting an AI startup, you've got a few goals. You want to solve a problem encountered by others. You want to grow a team. You want to stay in business. You want to make money. And you want to make somebody rich. That's usually a goal when you're doing this kind of thing. However, AI startups specifically have a few extra problems that they have to think about. It's mostly relating to hardware, specifically their cost, their reliability, and their availability, and their orchestration, with a little side note about checkpoints in here. In terms of the first challenge, GPUs can cost more than $300,000 for a single 10 kilowatt server. The networking gear is not much cheaper. Power is also expensive because you've got this 10 kilowatt server running basically 24/7. And in order to cool that and make sure that you're using space effectively, that's also expensive. So you can be looking at, for a single server plus a router plus a rack, you can be looking at about $400,000 up front plus another $50,000 a year to run this kind of thing. The second challenge for hardware is about reliability and availability. Meta, when they had their GPU cluster, when they were doing their GPU cluster for training Llama 3.1, I want to say, they had a failure of a GPU every 3 hours where they would lose the entire training run that they had been doing since the last time they checkpointed. GPUs are also incredibly hard to buy right now due to just plainly how scarce they are. And cooling these incredibly power-hungry servers is a complete and utter nightmare. You can actually exceed the amount. Most data centers do about 5 kilowatts per rack, and you can fit 4 servers in a rack. The only problem is these servers draw 10 kilowatts.
So you need 2 racks of cooling and power per server. Very difficult. As I mentioned before, with Meta failing having a failure every 3 hours, that they lose all the progress since the previous checkpoints, which are just like checkpoints in a video game. You save your progress. The only problem is when you're not saving your progress, you are running training. When you are saving your progress, you are not running training. So there's a really big heuristic for trying to figure out how often you should be checkpointing and what you should be checkpointing. The last challenge when it comes to orchestration is the last challenge when it comes to AI startups is orchestration. This is trying to figure out how you're going to run all your GPUs. Are you going to try and virtualize everything? Are you run everything on the bare metal? You've got to worry about some really in-depth topics like Newman topology, IOMMU, RDMA, etc. And these are not fun things to deal with. In terms of pure operational challenges, AI startups are incredibly capital intensive compared to most other types of startups. I've heard a number of close to 80% or more of a raise goes just to infrastructure rather than to employees and headcount and all that kind of thing. You've also got to have your magic sauce to make sure your startup is successful. You can use that magic sauce in terms of outsourcing, renting, and building. We'll talk about that in a second. And for infrastructure, you really don't want to build expertise that you don't need. The big problem that you're going to encounter is you've got to figure out how to run all these GPUs. And if you get really, really good at running GPUs in production, maybe you shouldn't be an AI startup. Maybe you should just be an infrastructure startup. For the magic sauce, you can resell another service like OpenAI. You can build custom prompts and that kind of thing. You are then reliant on OpenAI, and they could usurp you and just outspend you at any point. You can self-host an existing LLM through doing stuff like renting hardware. That makes it, it's a good middle ground. Or you can train a foundation model from scratch, which is incredibly expensive, and you can buy the hardware for it, which is also wildly expensive. In terms of building and selling, let's chat about that for a second. Loosely, you don't want to build what you don't sell. As I mentioned with infrastructure before, you don't build a foundation model, just sell your infrastructure to other people. If you are trying to build a payroll provider, don't build your own infrastructure for training a model. It's just not going to work for you. The other thing to note is ML research is not ML production. I have seen amazing tech demos that are very hard to get into prod. Anytime you're trying to do research just to prove out an idea works, that is not your final product. That is not going to scale. You have to dedicate a lot of time to making sure that you are building an effective product and building a fast product. As I've said before, don't become an infra expert. You do not want to spend your money and time and headcount on doing things that are not ultimately relevant towards running your product. You also don't want to focus on engineering too much. A lot of times, and I've done this myself, people will focus on like, oh, if I get this specific feature right, I will have a great product that customers will love. Well, that's all well and good, and they might, except if you have no customers, it's not worth anything. So you want to really focus on your MVP. You want to try and get your first set of customers and listen to them rather than listening to yourself, because you can get really stuck in the problem and get your head so far in that you can't see the forest for the trees, I believe is the phrase. Next, AI is wildly expensive. As we've talked about, it's $300,000 a server, and that server only has 8 GPUs. You're going to need hundreds of GPUs to train foundation models. So you're going to want to be scrappy. And last but not least, make sure you don't forget your goals. You're trying to build a company, you're trying to have fun, you're trying to build something new. If you get so stuck building up your infrastructure, building up some specific feature, you're going to get lost and you're going to lose sight of your goals. You want to make sure that you keep this in mind throughout the entire life cycle of the company. That was a quick talk on how to do an AI startup. I hope everyone enjoyed. This last slide is
slide is probably not super relevant to the Discord, but for those curious, you can reach us at jensen.ai, you can join our Discord, follow us on Twitter, and you can find me at 55.dev.